Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Julian Speaks. And if you're new here, this podcast is a safe space where we talk honesty about healing, heartbreak, emotional growth, relationships, loneliness, self worth, and difficult emotions that people carry behind closed doors. And today's episode is called Learning to Be Alone After Losing Friends. It is something deeply personal for many people, especially in adulthood. So, learning to be alone after losing friends, it's because friends' loss can create a kind of loneliness that people rarely talk about openly. Sometimes friendships slowly fade, they drift apart, the betrayal happens commonly, and sometimes life simply changes people. And suddenly, the people who once filled your days, your phone, your routines, and your emotional world are no longer the same way. That kind of silence can feel heartbreaking, especially when you realize that you are entering a new chapter of life feeling emotionally alone. So today, we're going to talk about loneliness after friendship loss, like emotional isolation. We're going to talk about rebuilding your identity, how to learn to enjoy your own company, healing your trust issues, and also finding peace without constant depending on connection to feel complete. So, wherever you are listening right now, I truly appreciate that you're here with me today, and thank you for being here. So, let's talk. Segment 1: The Loneliness People Hide. I think many adults secretly carry loneliness they never fully talk about. I used to, because loneliness doesn't always look obvious, right? Some people still go to work, some people can smile, some people can post online, some people can socialize occasionally either, while privately feeling emotionally disconnected inside. And friendship loss can intensify that loneliness deeply, especially when you lose the people who were part of your everyday life. The conversation disappear, the routines disappear, the emotional comfort disappear. And honestly, one of the hardest things about losing friendships is adjusting to silence. Silence where connections used to exist. And I think people underestimate how emotionally destabilizing this can feel. Because friendship often becomes part of your identity. And we build these memories, these habits, the emotional safety, and even versions of ourselves around those connections or those people. So when those friendships end or change, it can feel like losing pieces of yourself. Segment 2: Why being alone feels so uncomfortable. Now, let's talk honestly about why being alone can be so difficult emotionally. I think it's because many people are not actually taught on how to enjoy the solitude. Instead, people often associate being alone with rejection, with abandonment, failure, or unworthiness. Especially after losing the friendships, it's just like you would wonder, or you would start wonder what's wrong with you? Like, why do people leave me? Like, am I hard to keep? Like, why do I feel so disconnected from everyone? And honestly, loneliness can trigger that deep insecurities, especially if someone already struggles with self worth, abandonment wounds, rejection sensitivity, and emotional dependency. Because when external connection disappears, you are left alone with your own thoughts emotionally. And for many people, that can feel overwhelming at first. That's why people rush to constantly distract themselves. They over socialize, they stay chronically online, they force connections, and keep themselves busy constantly to avoid emotional emptiness. How does that sound? It's like you're in a romantic relationship. It's kind of like the same, isn't it? But you know what? Avoiding this loneliness is a different from healing it. Segment 3. Friendship loss changes people. I always believe that friendship loss changes people deeply, especially when trust is broken, like loyalty disappeared, like emotional abandonment happened, or it could be someone you deeply cared about slowly became distant. Because after enough friendship pain, many people become emotionally guarded. They stop opening up fully. They stop trusting easily. And they fear of becoming emotionally attached again. It's traumatic. But that fear is understandable. Because losing people you once felt emotionally safe with creates emotional caution. You begin protecting yourself differently. You become more defensive. But one thing I've learned here is that there is difference of protecting your peace and isolating yourself emotionally forever. Because some people become so afraid of future disappointment that they completely close themselves off from the connection. While the isolation may feel safer temporarily, humans still needs emotional connection eventually, right? Healing is a learning balance, not becoming emotionally unavailable to survive the pain. Segment 4. Learning to enjoy your own company. All right, so interesting. So one of the biggest turning points in this healing loneliness is learning how to genuinely enjoy your own presence. I didn't say you have to be alone all the time, but honestly, this can feel uncomfortable in the beginning, right? Especially for people who are used to constantly pouring into others emotionally. So, because when external noise disappears, you're finally left facing yourself, your thoughts, your fears, your emotion, your identity outside of other people. But over time, solitude becomes peaceful instead of painful, because you will become, or you will begin to reconnecting yourself. You will rebuild your routines. You will rediscover your interests, and it will create emotional independence on you. And lastly, it would make you learn who you are outside constant that connection. And honestly, there's something powerful about becoming your own safe space emotionally. Because eventually, being alone stops feeling like abandonment. It starts feeling like peace. Peace that doesn't mean loneliness disappears completely, but it becomes less terrifying. Segment 5. Social media and modern loneliness. From our last few episodes, we talk about social media as well, and I think Really, social media has changed the way people experience loneliness. Why? Because now people constantly witness the friendships, the group photos, the social outings, the celebrations, like all the connections online. And honestly, this can intensify the feelings of exclusion, especially when you're already emotionally struggling. And you're gonna start believing, you're gonna start questioning yourself like everyone else has people, everyone else belongs somewhere. Like, why do I feel so alone? But social media rarely shows emotional reality fully. That's how I always believe. Many people surrounded by others still feel lonely internally. And honestly, some people maintain many surface level connections while lacking genuinely emotional intimacy completely. And that is something important to remember because quality of connection matters more than the appearance of the connection. And a few emotionally safe people matter more than large social circles that leave you feeling unseen. Segment 6: Rebuilding your life after friendship loss. One of the hardest part about friendship loss is rebuilding your social identity afterward. Especially if your life previously revolved around certain people, because you may suddenly feel disconnected, uncertain, social anxious, or you feel emotionally displaced. And honestly, this rebuilding this connection as an adult can feel intimidating. But healing often creates space for healthier relationship eventually. And one of the most important things that people can learn is you do not need to force connection out of fear of loneliness, because desperation often attracts emotionally unhealthy relationships. Healing teaches discernment, and you become more intentional about who you allow close, who feel emotionally safe, who would reciprocate the effort, or who genuinely values your presence. And honestly, emotional peace becomes more important than simply having the people around. That shift changes everything. Segment 7: Finding yourself again. I think one of the hidden gems of solitude is self-discovery. Because sometimes losing people forces you to finally reconnect yourself. And you begin asking, like, what actually makes me happy? Or what actually makes you happy? And what kind of life do you want? Like, who are you outside of constantly giving to others? And honestly, many people spend years emotionally attached to the connection without truly knowing themselves deeply. Solitude creates reflection, the growth, the awareness, the social maturity. And while loneliness hurts, it can also become the space of where healing begins. Because eventually you would stop chasing people who continuously make you feel emotionally lovely anyway, or lonely anyway. And you can start creating a life that feels emotionally fulfilling from within. And that is very powerful. Segment 8: You are not unlovable. I think one of the saddest things loneliness does is convincing people that they are difficult to love, especially after repeated friendship loss or relationship loss. People start internalizing rejection They would think like, maybe I am too much, or maybe I'm forgettable, or maybe people always leave. And honestly, those thoughts can quietly damage your self-worth if they go unchallenged. So I want listeners like you to hear this clearly. Friendship changes do not automatically mean you are unlovable. People drift for many reasons. Life changes, their priorities change, emotionally maturity change, circumstances change. And not every ending is proof that you lack value. One day, I hope you stop measuring your worth by who stayed and who left. Because your value exists independently for other people's ability to recognize it constantly or consistently. So if you're learning how to be alone after losing friends, please be gentle with yourself. Loneliness can feel heavy. Silence can feel painful. And rebuilding your emotional world after friendship loss takes time. But being alone does not mean you are unwanted. Sometimes solitude becomes the very place where you rebuild your confidence, your peace, your boundaries, your self-worth, and your relationship with yourself. And one day, I hope being alone no longer feels like something you would fear. I hope it becomes something that reminds you that you can survive your own company and even learn to love it. Everyone, thank you very, very much for spending time with me today at Jillian Speaks. If this episode resonated with you, please share it to someone who may currently be struggling with loneliness, friendship loss, or some emotional isolation right now. And as I always say, if you have deeper reflections about healing, emotional growth, heartbreak, self-worth, boundaries, or learning to choose yourself again, I have a perfect book for you, and it's called The Space I Never Gave Myself. It's currently available on Amazon, can be read on Kindle. Amazon ebooks as well. So it is available. So your support truly means so much to me. And also don't forget to follow Jillian Speaks on Spotify and YouTube and all our social media platforms for more honest conversation about healing friendships, relationships, and personal growth. But before we end this episode, I have another reminder for you. Your story matters. So if you have a love story, heartbreak, and healing journey, or life experiences that you'd like to share with us, we would love to hear it. So your story may be featured on our podcast on YouTube and Spotify, and could inspire someone else who's still trying to heal or find themselves. So the mechanic on how you can send your story can be found on our Facebook and YouTube page or channel. And additional thing for specifically for Filipino listeners, if you are selected featured storyteller, you will receive some Gcash credits as our little thank you gift for sharing it. And also, as I always say, protect your peace, follow your heart, keep growing, and until our next episode.